Hello bugs, hello there bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to like, share to Facebook and or Twitter, subscribe and visit uptopbeauty.com for these super fly shades. You asked for them and here they are. And if you are not already a part of this book club, please hit our Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube, and for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue talking about Ronnie Spector's Be My Baby. Dante just got more and more headstrong until finally he wouldn't listen to a word I said. We had our worst fight on Halloween night, 1980. I don't recall ever arguing with my mother. I do recall trying to explain to her certain situations, but arguing with her, I don't know about that. Dante came home from school all excited that one of his friends had invited him to a costume party that night. I couldn't take him down there because I had a rehearsal, so I told him he had to stay home. He didn't like that one bit, so he stormed off to his room and slammed the door behind him. My mother was over that night, so I turned to her and shook my head. I thought that was the end of that, but about 20 minutes later, Dante comes walking out of his room wearing a sheet over his head, his hands and feet coated with white talcum powder. "What are you supposed to be?" I asked. "A ghost," he answered. "It's my costume for the party." Now, it was my turn to get mad. "Well, you can walk around the house dressed up like a ghost all you want, but you are not going out to any party tonight." He didn't say a word, but he swung around and gave me the most evil look I'd ever seen. Then he tried to slam the door on me again. Ooh. Ooh. He didn't say a word, but he swung around and gave me the most evil look I'd ever seen. Then he tried to slam the door on me again. It was one of those doors with a lot of glass windows in it, and I caught his eye through one of them as I held it open. "Don't slam the door on me. I'm your mother." He don't give a fuck. He don't care. He do not care nothing about that. He is a piece of work. You know what this remind me of, y'all? Ooh, I was watching Brewster Place the other day. Girl, if this ain't bitch ass Basil or Basil, I don't know who it is. Remember that movie? Ooh, Basil was the worst. And remember the old lady told her, "Look, you are spoiling that child rotten. You making this child, he 5 years old, he sleeping in the bed with you. All you doing is creating a bitch ass nigga. Do you understand that?" Girl, but you couldn't tell Oprah character, what was her name? I don't know. You couldn't tell Oprah's character Nathan, but she sure had a lot to say about everybody else's business. That bitch was just as bad as the blue-haired lady, but ain't nobody gonna say that because it's the Oprah. Okay, I'll move forward. But Dante was having a tantrum, and it was too late to stop him. Girl, he pulled his foot back about 3 feet and let loose a kick that shattered a pane of glass into about 10 pieces, and one of them sliced right into my ankle. Whew. My mother came running into the hall to see what had happened, and by that time there was blood gushing everywhere. I looked up to see Dante staring at me with his mouth wide open. "Grandma," he told my mother, "I think she's really hurt." I'll never forget the panic in his voice, like he was actually shocked to find out that I wasn't indestructible. "I'm sorry, Mom," he stuttered. "I'm so sorry." Thank God for Jonathan. He was a source of strength for me in so many ways, personal as well as professional. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't started working as my manager. He always been so good at it. John was one of the reasons I stopped drinking when I worked. Notice she said when I worked. I was so used to having guys walk away from me that I didn't know what to make of a man like Jonathan who stuck it out. But if my relationship with Jonathan was getting better every day, my dealings with Dante were getting worse. I knew he wasn't happy in New York, so when he asked me if he could spend a week in California, I was all for it. He was supposed to stay with a friend of his in LA, a kid named Jerry Goodman. I was a little nervous about sending Dante back to Phil's turf on his own, so I gave Jerry's mother very specific orders not to let Phil anywhere near him. Then I took Dante to the airport and gave him a kiss. "Here's some money," I said, stuffing 3 $100 bills into his inside pocket. "Don't spend this," I told him. "Give it to Mrs. Goodman. She's going to buy your return ticket with that money when you come back next week. Understand?" "Yeah," he said, rolling his eyes the way 11-year-old boys do. "Some mishaps happened while he was out there in California." Dante ended up back with his grandmother. She like, "What do you mean, grandmother? My mother right here. She right here. What you talking? My mama right here on this coast, on the East Coast." "Not your mother. He's with Phil's mother." "Bertha?" I said. "What the hell is he doing with her?" "Well," she said, "under the circumstances, I didn't know where else to send him." "What circumstances?" I demanded to know. "And when is he planning to come back?" "He doesn't want to go back, ever," she said. And frankly, after what he told me, I don't blame him. After I heard that, I went into shock. My head got light and I started to hear ringing in my ears. I put the phone down for a few seconds to gather my thoughts, but I couldn't make any sense of it. Mrs. Goodman kept talking, but the more she said, the worse it got. She told me Dante had called Phil's mother on his first day in California. He told her that I was an alcoholic, that he never knew what I was going to do from minute to minute, and that he was scared to go back to me. So Bertha had come to pick him up, and he was going to live with her now. "I'm sorry it had to happen this way," Mrs. Goodman was saying, "but I think it's all for the best." Damn! Woo! Ooh, when the alcohol does not win, girl. After I met Jonathan, my dream of having a baby came back stronger than ever. Of course, I was already 38 by the beginning of 1982, so you'd think I would have hung it up by then. But something, the Brett having a baby right now, I think the Brett like 48 years old. Girl, that relationship is so crazy to me. But something told me not to give up that dream of having a kid, not just yet. I tried everything I could to get pregnant at every opportunity. One time, Jonathan and I made love on the night train back from a show we did in Chicago. For some reason, this train seemed like the most romantic place in the world that night. And I remember how the tracks even seemed to be keeping time to John's lovemaking. That's romantic. We went back out on the road that spring, and suddenly we were too busy to even think about having babies. In fact, the subject of pregnancy didn't even come up again until May, when I practically had to cancel a show because I couldn't get my zipper up. My whole life changed that day. I found out I was pregnant. It was a miracle, a gift from God. I knew that much, and I sure didn't want to screw it up. The first thing I did was stop drinking. Good for you, girl. The first thing I did was stop drinking totally. It wasn't that hard either. I only really felt like drinking when I was depressed anyway, and I'd never been happier in my life. Jonathan wanted me to take it easy during the pregnancy, but I was so excited by the whole experience. I couldn't wait to burn some of that energy off on stage. We finally compromised. I did only those shows that had already been scheduled before I got pregnant, and then I took it easy until the baby came. I barely made it to the toilet before something very big started sliding out from between my legs. I had no idea what it was. It felt like a raw chicken. I sat back on the toilet seat screaming in pain and held my legs as far apart as they would go so this thing, whatever it was, could get the hell out. Then it got stuck halfway and I started crying out loud. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I had to get it out of me. I bit my lip and pushed until it finally started to move slowly past my thighs. Then I felt the strangest sensation. All of a sudden, this thing seemed to be moving all on its own as it slid through my legs. I actually felt it reach out and scratch the inside of my thighs. I tried to jump up from the toilet, but I couldn't even do that. I was halfway off the seat when I felt this weird tugging, like there was a rope stretched from me to the toilet bowl. I reached down between my legs and touched it with my fingers. It was warm and soft, and I knew in a second that it was my umbilical cord. That's when it hit me like a shock. That thing that just came out of me was my baby. I leaped up from the toilet and felt the umbilical cord snap in two. I watched it sink down into the toilet bowl, and that's when I caught my only glimpse of the tiny little creature that was floating in that awful bloody water. I saw it for only a second, but that was long enough. Oh my God, no, I cried. I just killed my baby. Then I really panicked. I wanted to get away from there as fast as I could, so I stumbled into the bedroom in shock. I couldn't get up. I couldn't even move. I just sat there on the bed screaming at the top of my lungs. I killed it. My God, I killed my baby.
I know